So I'm gonna do a response video to this guy, the public offender. I really don't want to do this video, to be honest, because watching this misandrist garbage is just painful to me and it stresses me out, to be honest. But someone has to respond to this guy because he's just like, seriously, this guy is one of the biggest misandrists that I've ever seen on this platform here. And like, seriously, this guy really, he tries to really get the world record for misandric brain rot or something. Like, this guy is like unbelievably misandrous, but also very dumb, and it's sort of the equivalent of like a white nationalist or a white supremacist low IQ redneck ranting on and on about like the great replacement or some bullshit like that. It's sort of the retardation level of that, basically, right? It's really just dumb, hateful bigotry that we're about to witness from this video here that I'm gonna show you. So let's watch this.
Because it is not all men. If you actually look at the data, 0.2% of Americans are arrested for violent crime each year, and like 1% of people commit like 60% crime, and it's not all men doing it.
Yeah, so this obviously is from TikTok, right? TikTok is feminist infested, totally anti-male. I think TikTok should be outlawed, okay, internationally. It is one of the most toxic platforms that I've ever seen. And this is a random video clip here. We cannot even see really what's happening here, so... But yeah, he presents this as evidence.
Day 1000 on the It's Not All Men watch, but it's necessary. So I just can't. I can't leave this alone. I can't leave it alone because it's so relevant. So
yeah, you cannot leave it alone because you're a misandrist bigot, right? And by the way, this whole it's not all men rhetoric is actually begging, right? Because as I've shown in blog posts and also in other videos, and I've shown this with statistics and studies, okay, women are the violent gender, okay? Not men. It's women, actually, okay? So this whole, oh, it's not all men, this is this typical begging, oh, there are also good men type of rhetoric. No, we are men, we are human beings, and we deserve respect. We don't deserve to be demonized. Okay, that should be the stance. But let's continue with that.
And it's very important that men understand this and understand why. Like, why are people saying this? Came across a very interesting video. This young lady sharing some data with us, and it just got me rethinking about the whole thing all over again.
He means a TikTok video, by the way. So he gets his information from TikTok.
Like, it's even worse than I thought. The whole, like, it's not all men till I mean, it's all men till there's no man. Like, it really, this is going to make that case even stronger. Let me put it like that. So we all see stuff like this, right? Like crazy things that men do to women.
Just a quick warning. The video you're about to see might be a bit distressing.
Yeah, so we cannot even see really what's going on in that video. And again, even if we accept that, or even if we accept this as some sort of evidence, right, that, oh, men are so dangerous or whatever, right? So, yeah, this might be an isolated incident, okay? But this doesn't prove a population-wide phenomenon or something, right? And by the way, if you want to play this card, right? So here are a bunch of feminist women. I don't know where this was. Was it Mexico? I don't know. Cannot remember. But a bunch of feminist women basically attacking a man with a bicycle, right?
Right, yeah.
Or with a motorcycle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, he started walking by with his bike.
Yeah, so there you go. So if you want to say, oh, men are so violent because I found this random video, yeah, I can also show this type of stuff. Yeah.
This is for all the not all men crowd. When you're in this car and you look outside and all you see are men, there's no way for you to be able to know it isn't all men. I won't pretend.
Oh, men are so dangerous. It's not, it's literally all men are like violent hooligans. Yeah, okay, I can also say then the same thing about women then, right? All women are like that then? Yeah? Or what about this? Women beat men with sticks during Holi festival. I think this is in India. Okay. What about this? Hunt for gang of girls after elderly women and vulnerable men beaten up on London trains in vicious attacks. Yeah? Or what about this? On camera, group of women mercilessly trash men outside Raipur airport. Right? We could also say, oh yeah, it's all women, right? It's all women. Yeah? Or what about this? Gang rapes of men by women on the rise in Zimbabwe. Okay? And the sad thing is, these acts are committed by women are not technically rape under Zimbabwean law. Right? So men are not even 100% protected here, or they're not really protected. So from being gang raped by women in Zimbabwe. Okay? So, yeah, if you want to say, oh, there's this random TikTok video of hooligans attacking two women or something, in this, like, very dark video where we couldn't even see and where it's, like, out of context, we don't know what's going on, actually, right? Again, look at this, right? Look at this, right? There's countless of counterexamples of where groups of women and groups of girls attack men. Okay?
Tend to know what these ladies are feeling, but when they're looking outside, all they see is
Oh, what they're feeling, right? No evidence, no data, just feelings. Okay.
are all men. Mind you, this isn't a gathering of
Yeah, and when this man looks around, he sees only women attacking him. Yeah? Okay?
70,000 men who know each other to some extent. This isn't a man that's invited men to an event. These are football fans that are excited that their team won. These are strangers. So while there might be some out there who seem to...
Yeah, and those are also strangers here to this man, right? He just wanted to pass by, and guess what? He's attacked by these feminist harpies. Basically in a lynch-type fashion.
think that women only have a few men to be afraid of. These...
Yeah, women have actually nothing to be afraid of, right? And only a few men, like less than 1% of the population, is actually committing violent crimes. This is what actual statistics show.
These are men that have no relation to each other, yet they've managed to terrorize two women. To be quite honest, there were police officers trying to do something, but I can imagine in that situation, you wouldn't even see them. I think this is a reality for a lot of women where...
Yeah, what's your evidence for this, you dipshit? You literally said two women. Two. Okay? Two. This is not a lot of women. This is not every woman. Okay, there's a random video of two women being attacked. So no, you cannot claim, oh, this is a reality for a lot of women. Yeah, show me the fucking evidence.
Men seem to think that it's the opposite, where there is a lot of men trying to help women. But no, this isn't what it looks like when you...
Oh yeah, my feelings, my perceptions, this isn't what it looks like. Yeah, again, show me the evidence or shut the fuck up.
Also, okay, the police officers aside, because they're police officers, and if that was two female police officers, two male police officers, a male and a female, it doesn't matter. That's their job, right?
Yeah, but men are vastly more likely and more willing to do jobs like police officer or security or something like that, right? Where you have to protect other people, right? And the police also has been shown to be more willing and more protective of women, okay?
That's what they're going to do. They're going to try to help the people usually in distress in that situation. But the reality is the reason why that was such a perfect example of why it's all men until it's no man.
Oh yeah, it's all men. All men are evil demons who are just attacking women everywhere, behind every corner, right?
Is because none of the other men tried to help. None of the other men. You never saw a hand put a, hey, man, what you doing?
Oh yeah, and where are the women trying to protect this man and stopping the attack on this man? Yeah? Right? Okay? And also, like, where the fuck are the women trying to stop the feminist hate movement, which you are a part of? Yeah? Which absolutely destroys men's life on a institutionalized level, actually.
Hey guys. And the funniest thing is,
and by the way, we couldn't even see anything in that video. Like, this was like a, I don't know, like 10 seconds clip of a dark video out of context, and he takes this as evidence that men don't protect women. Get the fuck out of here.
The funniest thing that people don't understand about these crowds, about these types of mobs, right? It doesn't take but a few men to control this type of crowd to a certain extent. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really doesn't take like all the men in the crowd. Like, it just takes like a few men. You know what I'm saying? I know there were some police officers there, but let's say like 2 or 3 more men would have stepped up and been like, hey, now it's 5. I know it's 5 on 1,000 or whatever, but that's not the point. It's not that they think like, oh, we can take them. It's just, it's a mob mentality. And when you have a person there that is not buying into the mob mentality, it triggers something in the mob as well. So it doesn't take the whole mob to do it. It just takes like a certain amount of the mob to be like, hey, what the fuck?
Yeah, again, this works both ways. So, do you have any evidence that all men are violent criminals or are out to harm women? Do you have any actual evidence or not? If not, shut the fuck up.
You know what I'm saying? So that's important to keep in mind. And when you look at that situation, there were none of the men. You didn't see any man step up. Now, and here's what men will say. Now, a few of the men, like 1 man broke the window. All the men didn't break the window. 1 man broke the window. 4 of the men were rocking the car. 6 of the men kicked it, you know, whatever the case may be. Maybe 50 of them were chanting and, you know, being very intimidating. But the other...
We get your fucking stupid point. Okay? We already get it. It's a stupid point. It doesn't get any better with you just repeating and repeating yourself and rambling on and on about the same fucking thing. We couldn't see barely anything in that video. All right? And even if we take that as face value, like I said, we can also find examples of women doing that to men. So shut the fuck up.
Other 300 didn't do or say shit. So at that point, it is all men.
No, all men is not these 50 people that we saw in that random TikTok video, right? All men, if we're talking about the whole Earth's population of men, would be billions of men. If we're talking about just the United States, it would be, I don't know, like 150 million or something. Yeah. So this guy is such a retard.
It wasn't like every man in that group was contributing to that. But no man in that group stepped up to stop it. So
how the fuck do you even know that not a few of these men were getting away from that crowd and were calling to the police? You fucking dipshit. Yeah? Because we didn't see that context. Maybe that was what was going on, actually. You fucking dipshit.
How would the women know in that situation who were the men that were safe and who were the men that were unsafe, right? There's no way to tell in a situation like that.
When it's a really important rebuke that we should...
Sorry, at the beginning, I cut it off, my bad. He says, it's not all men, it's something that needs to be repeated or whatever. That's what he's saying. That was literally the first part of this thing. It's not all men. It even says it right there, not all men.
When it's a really important rebuke that we should be using, because it is not all men. If you actually look at the data, 0.2% of Americans...
Again, this guy, I mean, yeah, it's technically correct. It's not all men, but again, this phrase, it's not all men, is a begging, groveling appeasement strategy, which we shouldn't do as men's rights activists, okay? Because we should actually go on the attack mode, right? Women commit more violence than men, okay? They commit the vast majority of child abuse, child murder, right? And also abortions. They commit more domestic violence, right? We should say these types of things. Not, oh, it's not all men. They're also non-violent men. Yeah, okay, that's obvious, right? But it's also groveling and like being begging and shit like that. That's weak.
Are arrested for violent crime each year, and like 1%.
Arrested for violent crime. 0.2% of Americans are arrested. I want you to keep that in mind.
Yeah, arrested. So do you want to make the point, oh yeah, there are also many dangerous men that are slipping under the radar and are not arrested, but they are still committing crimes or whatever? Yeah, but it's not going to be like millions of men, because guess what? The police is already anti-male, right? The criminal justice system is already anti-male, okay, which is shown in all kinds of studies. I've done a whole video on this, right? Okay, males were 1.5 times more likely to be arrested, okay? So, yeah, even if they're like male criminals who are slipping under the radar, it's not going to be millions of men or something, right? It's going to be like 1% or less of the population, or of the criminal population or whatever.
Arrested. Okay.
Of people commit like 60% of crime, and it's not all men doing it. Neither all percent of Americans are arrested for violent crime each year, and like 1% of people commit like 60% of crime, and it's not all men.
No. 1% of people do not commit 60% of all crime. Like, that is not humanly possible.
Oh yes, that is humanly possible, you fucking dipshit. Okay. So first of all, Tin Man probably got this number from this study here. The 1% of the population accountable for 63% of all violent crime convictions. Now this is Swedish data. Okay, but it can also be inferred that this is likely the case for American data as well, because 1% of the population is, in the American case, it's 3 million people, right? Because the American population is roughly 300 million people. So 1% of that is 3 million. And last time I checked, there were like 3 to 5 million criminal cases each year in the United States. So yeah, it absolutely makes sense that 3 million people commit like roughly 3 million crimes each year. That totally makes sense, actually. That is humanly possible. It's just that this dipshit doesn't understand basic mathematics.
For 1% of people, it would be like the equivalent of Santa Claus delivering a present to every household in the world, over Christmas Eve or some shit like that. Like that.
No, you are fucking retarded. 1% of 300 million people is 3 million people. Okay? So, yeah, it is absolutely possible. Fucking retard.
That's how impossible it would be. It would literally take magic for that to happen. He would have to teleport into everybody's home. And even then, he wouldn't be able to.
This guy probably thinks, oh, 1%? That's like literally 300 people. No, you're dumb as fuck.
To do it, but I'm just saying, he would have to move at the speed of light while teleporting into everybody's home. He wouldn't be able to ride reindeers. He would have to just like blink and just this home and this home and this home and enter right by the tree and like that's the only way for it to.
You see what kind of people are misandrous, by the way? Like really dumb, hateful people like that. I just want you to see that on full display here, right? Intelligent people are pro-male, and dumb, hateful bigots like him are anti-male.
Even be possible for it to, like, that doesn't make any sense. 1% of people do not commit 60% of crimes. That is just a made up stat. That's not a reality.
Yeah, that is a reality, though.
That is made up. Christopher Williams, or whatever this dude's name is, whose podcast is this idiot's on, he never, I've never heard Christopher repeat any stats that were actually real, and so I never expect any of his guests to as well. But they say these things so confidently. Like, I'm like,
yeah, let's keep that in mind for later when he makes up bullshit stats later.
I'm like, why is your platform so big? How is nobody challenging you on this stuff? Like, it's so easy to debunk. It's crazy.
The same question I would like to ask to you, like, how the fuck is your channel so big, and why is nobody challenging you?
1% of people commit like 60% of crime, and it's not all men doing it. Neither are all men billionaires. That's what I'm sick and tired of. The chance of a man being a billionaire is like 0.00004%, and the chance of a woman being a billionaire is like 0.00005%. And I was like, yeah, one of them is bigger, but they're both small. It's like you're comparing 2 grains of sand. You are not going to be a billionaire, whether you're a man or woman. Meanwhile, measures of equality such as education, health outcomes, life expectancy, which are applicable to everybody, are not included at all. We're constantly talking about billionaires and all these things, like very, very rare instances. And meanwhile, men who die younger in every single country in the world, and boys who are behind at every stage of education in every single Western country, not talked about. The ability to decide how we measure equality is a privilege in its own right. The metrics we're using are just not inclusive enough, and they're just giving away a warped perspective of society.
Okay, so a few things. A, comparing men who commit violence or who commit crimes to billionaires is crazy.
No, it's not crazy, because his point was that we shouldn't be looking at like rare outliers of men, like, oh, they are billionaire men, that must be all men are like privileged billionaires, which is like the feminist apex fallacy that they constantly use to smear men. No, just because Jeff Bezos is a man doesn't help me as a broke man, okay? So yeah, that is his point, basically. Right? And likewise, just because there's like Ted Bundy, who is a man, doesn't mean that every man is like Ted Bundy.
It's not analogous. Not point, or no. It's not that. I would venture to say that a large percentage of men commit crimes.
Yeah, what's your fucking evidence for this? So let's actually look at real statistics. Adult male violent crime percentage, approximately 0.3% of men are violent criminals. Okay, that's less than 1% of the male population. Okay, and by the way, abortion rate among women, approximately 24.7% of U.S. women of reproductive age are expected to have an abortion by age 45, if the 2020 abortion rate remains constant. So there are actually more women committing violence against unborn children than there are men who are committing violent crime. Okay?
Now, I'm going to show us some information to support what I'm saying next, but I think that it's probably...
You're going to show us a TikTok video of some feminist who cites a study which you yourself haven't actually read. But I did, actually, and I'm going to get into that.
We closer to 50% of men are responsible for, 100% of, or 90-some% of the violence in the whatever you want.
Yeah, what's the evidence for this?
To say in the world, you know what I'm saying? If not more, I think it's probably 80% of men are responsible for it. I think most men, the vast majority of men, contribute to the violence and the crime in the world. I do.
Oh, the vast majority of men are violent criminals. Yeah. Okay. Cool story. Do you have any evidence for this? Like, this claim is so outrageous. Like, this is some really hateful shit. Like, say this about any other group, and you would be called a fascist and a Nazi and a racist. But if you say shit like that about men, then all of a sudden people just accept that. It's fucking crazy. Yeah, almost all men are violent criminals. Yeah, okay. Do you want to tell me that this criminal justice system that we have is so incompetent to not lock these millions and hundreds of millions of men not up behind bars, right? Like, why do we even have like freaking buildings aside from prisons in our cities? Like, we should have like entire cities only with prisons for all these criminal men, yeah? If they're like almost all criminals, right? This is the brain rot. This is fucking disgusting, man. You're a disgusting public offender.
Secondly, no, what he's saying just it just doesn't make sense. Trying to act like men die, our health outcomes or whatever, that is tied to misogyny. That is tied to
Our health outcomes are tied to misogyny? What?
Men not taking care of men. That is nothing. That is
So men not taking care of men is misogyny, which is defined as hating women. So let me get this straight. So men don't take care of other men or don't take care of their own health or something is hating women. What? I mean, if that's not the non sequitur of the century, then I don't know what is. Jesus fucking Christ.
not that is a problem that men can fix whenever we want to. Whenever we
Yeah, right. Whenever we want to, right? So, for example, our health problems stem from the fact that women demand really harsh gender roles, like being the sole provider from men, yeah, which leads to men globally overworking, which is tied to cardiovascular disease, okay, and a lot of stress-related diseases, right? So, are these women gonna, step in, and take the dangerous jobs and overwork, right, and let us men finally rest a little bit? No, they're probably not gonna do that, right? Because if men demanded that, then these women would divorce these men, right? And would take their children away. Yeah? So it's not so easy to fix and to just put hyper agency on men, right? Okay? And also, you got politicians pumping money, massive amounts of money into women's health, right? Meanwhile, men's health is underfunded, okay? But women's health is well funded, yeah? And that is true also in the United States and pretty much everywhere, right? But no, it's all men's fault, right?
want to fix that problem, we can fix it. Like almost individually, we can fix it. The reason why men die sooner than women, not the reason, but a lot of the reasons why is rooted in our ego and our aversion to listening to simple directions and taking advice, namely of women. But
oh yeah, we could just magically improve our health if we just listen to the uber humans called women, right? They're just the better humans. They just do everything better than men, right? Okay. It's not because our misandrous anti-male governments underfund health. It's not because like men are pushed into these provider gender roles by women's demand, okay, which leads to worse health outcomes, right? It's not because men are basically forced to do more dangerous jobs, right? Because women don't really do these types of jobs, right? But somebody has to do this. So, yeah. No, this has nothing to do with it. It's just we should listen more to women.
Men don't eat well enough.
Oh, yeah, men don't eat well enough. Meanwhile, the vast majority of vegans are women who have nutritional deficiencies. All right.
Men are men do stupid stuff that put themselves in harm's way. Men do shit like play with rattlesnakes and drive fast on the freeway.
I mean, I don't do these things, but okay. Do you have any evidence that this is the main reason why men have worse health outcomes than women?
And ride motorcycles and skydive and they do all these dumbass things. They don't follow the directions when they climb up the ladders and get on the side of the house. They don't follow the directions. The ladder says to put it up at this degree angle, to prop it up against this. Don't.
Yeah, so he's just putting hyper agency onto men. I mean, even if there are like some reckless men who do risky shit, this is not the sole reason why on a population level men have worse health outcomes than women, okay? A lot of it has to do with men being pushed into these provider-slave roles that are demanded by women, right? And have to overwork and have to gain status to keep the women around, basically. And also our healthcare being underfunded and stuff like that.
Let it and you just stand it up, you don't read the directions, you put it up there, you go up there, climb up on the roof, and you fall and you die. Or you hit your head and now you're fucking crippled. Shit happens all the time. Or you're at work and you already work a dangerous job and then you're on
a dangerous job that women don't want to do, yeah.
On the job doing dangerous shit to put you in harm's way, not paying attention, fucking around, trying to do your job faster, not paying it
Yeah, men are just idiots, right? That's the only reason why we have worse health outcomes, worse life expectancy, right? I think boys also have worse health outcomes than girls, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, this is just, men are just idiots, right? And women are these uber humans that can do no wrong, right?
That's why men die sooner than women. That's why. That's not systemic. That is men being idiots. That is us. We can stop that shit tomorrow. So acting like,
we can just stop this shit tomorrow, right? Again, this guy is just an anti-male loser.
We just don't talk about that. One of the things that really raises my berries is when men try to act like we don't talk about the problems with men, when in reality, all we talk about are the problems with men.
No, we don't actually. So, for example, when we look at Google Scholar, for example, and we type in the term misogyny, we get thousands of articles, right? Because feminist academia is very concerned about so-called misogyny, which is complete bullshit. And then when we type in misandry, right, hatred of men, then almost nothing comes up. No articles. Academia doesn't give a shit about it. Okay? So no, we don't talk about the problems of men, right? We don't talk about men's issues. Okay?
Society is set up in such a way that it never takes into the account, it never takes women and children into account.
Oh my god. Fuck off, you fucking dipshit. Yeah, it takes them it never takes women into account. Meanwhile, presidents and governments pump billions into women's health, right? And there's all kinds of women's shelters, women's initiatives, women's organizations, right, that push women's issues, right, that sort of advance women's interests, right? But yeah, our society never takes women into account. And by the way, this term women and children, I reject that, because women are not the same as children, right? They're both two separate groups of people. So this women and children term is only to artificially inflate fake female victimhood, right, and hide actual male victimhood. For example, when you look at military conflicts, right, people dying in wars, then you hear this term women and children very often, right? But again, this masks the male victims of that, which are the majority, actually.
Like I've already talked about this before, but everything in society is built for men. Everything.
You fucking idiot. What are you talking about? Like, there's even a recent case where in the UK they want to build a female-only apartment block. What are you talking about, you dipshit?
Cars are built for men. Plows are built for men. Tractors are built for men.
What the fuck? Like, what do you even mean? Like, should we paint tractors pink or something? Like, built for men, yeah, for men to use as a work slave, yeah. Because women don't want to do these jobs, yeah. But they're not blocked from these jobs. Like, they can work on tractors, and there are some female farmers who work on tractors. So what the fuck are you talking about?
Every tool is built for a man. None of them are built for women.
And by the way, like, what? This is also another non sequitur, right? So he's talking about like men getting into workplace accidents, right? But then he talks about every tool on a job is built for men. So, like, what is he even saying, right? So the workplace is so dangerous because it's built for men? Like, what? I don't even understand his point. He doesn't have any point. It's a stupid non sequitur. He's just saying shit without making any sense.
So I don't want to hear shit. If men are dying sooner than women, it's a choice.
No, it's not a fucking choice if the government is underfunding men's health care. You fucking dipshit.
That's a personal choice because you can outlive a woman by 10 years, I'm sure. If you live the same lifestyle that a woman lived,
Oh yeah, the same lifestyle as a woman. You mean like leeching off another man, being a housewife leech, right? Not actually working for a living, right? You mean that lifestyle?
as a man, you would live 10 years longer than a woman. As a man, I bet you if men did the same shit women did, and the average woman's life expectancy.
Yeah, not working for a living, watching Netflix all day. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that will, that would be beneficial for men, but women wouldn't actually women wouldn't let the reversal happen, right? They want to be the ones who sit on the couch all day, right? Letting their man work.
Expectancy is 75, 76 years old in America. Men will live till 80, 82, 83 if we did the same fucking shit. If we took care of ourselves like women take care of themselves. Now,
oh yeah, women, these goddesses, right? We should just learn from them, eating more veggies and all of that, right? And just, but again, this works both ways. So women then should the dangerous long hour jobs then, yeah? And they should be drafted also, right? How about that?
mind you, though, women are being unalived by men.
Oh my God, that happens extremely rarely, okay? Women are actually more likely to kill children. And again, this term unalive is brain rot terminology. Just say the word kill, okay? That is normal language. Unalived is brain rot, low IQ, dumbass language.
Like, and I'm not even talking about femicide. I'm saying
there's no such thing as femicide. That's total bullshit.
The pressure we put on women, the stress we cause women.
Oh yeah, the pressure and stress we cause on women. Yeah, right. That's why most of the stress-related diseases and heart disease and shit like that related to overwork, most of the victims of that are male. Yeah, but yeah, the stress we put on women, right? And the pressure we put on women, right?
The abuse, which that's what I want to get to now. So remember what that guy was saying. Oh, 1% of men are responsible for 60% of crime. Remember that.
He said people, not men.
The numbers won't add up. They start to add up. I mean, they start to not add up really fast.
A new study was just reported in The Guardian.
Yeah, so he's just looking at a feminist TikTok video, and that's his evidence. That's where he gets his worldview from, right? Not actually reading and learning anything, but watching feminist TikTok videos. Amazing. And by the way, has he actually read the study that this woman here references? Because I actually did, okay? Right? So this is the Guardian article she references, right? 1 in 3 Australian men say they have committed intimate partner abuse. Okay, this is complete nonsense, but we'll get into that in a second.
Guardian that 1 in 3 men admit to abusing their partners in Australia. So this is an Australian study of a very, very large sample of men, actually. So initially 16,000 men and boys were part of this longer.
Hear that already? Men and boys. They were in the recruitment process. They were actually recruiting boys, including 10-year-old boys, to artificially increase the sample size, to make it appear more like representative and shit like that, which it isn't.
Longitudinal study. 10 years later, they added another 10,000 men and boys to that study.
1 in 3 admitted to abusing their partners. I'm 100% sure that it's double that.
Yeah, what's your fucking evidence, you dipshit? And again, these types of statistics, 1 in 3, 1 in 5, very misleadingly used, okay? But yeah, let's get into that.
In reality, a lot of those men don't even know what it is. They don't even know, a lot of those men think that what they're doing is normal. Like, a lot of men, I've talked to so many men about being abusive, and they end up admitting that they're abusive. And I'm not saying they say the words they're abusive. I'm saying in the conversation, like, they'll be like, oh, I'm not abusive. And then I'll be like, oh, okay. Like, I'll start off the conversation by telling them they're abusive, right? They'll be like, I've had this happen so many times.
Yeah, you're a typical male feminist cockroach who just projects their abusive thoughts onto other men.
But it'll start off talking about, we'll be talking about like why the woman left them. And then they'll be like, and I'll say that they're abusive. I'll be like, because you were abusing her. And they'll be like, no, I wasn't. And then in the conversation, I'll be like, okay, so like what happened? And then he'll be like, oh, I was trying to build my empire. And so, I wasn't around. Like, I was working 15 hours a day. And I'm like, oh, you neglected her? Well, I mean, if you want to say that, but well, somebody got to do it. Somebody got to work. And I was like, okay, I mean, I get that. You know what I'm saying? But it's impact over intent. So you neglected her. Well, yeah. And I'm like, well, that's abusive.
So let me get this straight. This one guy worked his ass off to please his woman, right? Okay. So she basically demanded that he works and builds his empire and builds his status, right? And that is called neglect, and he calls that abusive. So he acts exactly the way the woman wants, and that is abusive to the woman. Get the fuck out of here. This is exactly why I don't take this nonsense. Oh, you're an abusive man. Like these accusations from feminists. I don't take this seriously. Nobody should take this seriously, because if this is called abusive, no, actually the man was abused. Okay? The man is the abuse victim in that situation. Okay? He's the male provider slave. Okay? That is actually abusive.
Oh, so you mean to tell me if I don't show up for my partner and I'm not there emotionally or physically, that's abusive? And I'm like, yeah, that's abuse.
No, that's not abusive, you fucking dipshit. Again, the woman probably demanded that. That he overworks and shit like that. She probably demanded that shit. Okay?
Or I'll be talking to him and they'll be like, oh yeah, I cheated on her. And I'm like, yeah, that's abusive.
I mean, no, I wouldn't even call that abusive. I mean, cheating is bad, and men and women do it in similar numbers, right? But I wouldn't even call that abusive. But it's bad, but it's not abusive. Like, you cannot call everything abusive just because it hurt someone else's feelings or something. Like, this is just bullshit.
There's abuse? Yeah, what the fuck? What do you have to do to cheat? Lie. You got to gaslight? Yeah, that's abusive. Hell yeah, that's abusive.
Yeah, and women do that more than men.
Oh, man. So, yeah, a lot of men don't even fucking know.
This is a new study.
And by the way, if we want to talk about abuse, yeah, women commit the vast majority of child abuse. Okay? So, yeah, you want to talk about abuse? Talk about that.
It was just reported in The Guardian that 1 in 3 men admit to abusing their partners in Australia. So this is an Australian study of a very, very large sample of men, actually. So
Yeah, it's an inflated sample because they included literally 10-year-old boys. Okay? And yeah, let's actually look at the article, the Guardian article, right? And then also the study itself. So here are the questions that were asked to these men, right? Have you ever behaved in a manner that has made a partner feel frightened or anxious? Emotional type abuse. So that's already fucking bullshit, because this is very subjective. That's very hard to measure. That's very vague and nebulous, right? So, like, how the fuck can you actually even know whether or not your partner is frightened or anxious, right? Men who self-rated themselves, that they made their female partner anxious or frightened, like, how the fuck could they know, right? So that's subjective bullshit already, okay? Then the second question, have you ever hit, slapped, kicked, or otherwise physically hurt a partner when you were angry? Physical violence. Right, and then by 2022, 35% of men answered yes to one or both of those questions. About 9% reported physically abusing their partner. So this is where the 1 in 3 statistic comes from, right? But it says here, 35% of men answered yes to one or both of those questions, right? One or both. So it's not like 35% of these 26,000 men that she claimed are like violent abusers who kick and slap their women around or something, right? No, it's basically these men said yes to one of these questions, right? And by the way, spoiler alert, most of these men said yes to the first question about emotional abuse, which is vague and nebulous, right? And we'll get into where the 9%. We're gonna get into where the 9% figure comes from in a second.
So
I don't care where it's at. It'll be the same in America, maybe even worse. So I don't care where it's at.
initially 16,000 men and boys were part of this longitudinal study. 10 years later, they added another 10,000 men and boys to that study. So this is a huge sample to be working from. Of that large sample, 35% of those men and boys in that sample said that they had engaged in abuse against their partners. So that included, just to be clear, that 35% includes emotional abuse, psychological abuse, coercion, and physical violence.
That is a lie. It's not and, but or, okay? Because those 35% of men, they answered yes to either emotional abuse or physical violence, right? And most of that was yes to the emotional abuse type question, right? So this feminist is lying here. She's misrepresenting the data.
When you take out the psychological and emotional and coercive type abuse, the statistics still sat at 1 in 10. 1 in 10.
Yeah, 1 in 10 out of what? 1 in 10, like roughly 9 to 10%, basically. 10% of what? She's making it seem like 10% of the 26,000 men, right? Or men and boys, right? Because again, literally 10-year-olds were included in that study. So, but no, it was not 10% of these 26% of males, right? It was actually 5,000, right? Because this is a subsample. They asked only a subsample of this larger sample these questions relating to physical violence, right? Physical violence specifically, right? And it was basically 9% or 10% of those 5,000 that said yes, they use or have used intimate partner violence, and that equates to roughly 500 men, right? So 500 men is not representative of the entire Australian population, okay? And by the way, this study said here by 2022, 25% of men reported ever using and experiencing intimate partner violence, more than twice the proportion who reported using violence but never experiencing it. So it actually came to the conclusion that most intimate partner violence is bidirectional, right? Which means that men have probably been hit by their woman first and then hit back, right? Which is what the vast majority of studies actually show, that most intimate partner violence is bidirectional. Here's a systematic review. Okay. This is the most common pattern. Okay. But when there's violence initiated, women actually initiate more intimate partner violence, 70% of the cases, right? When the violence is non-reciprocal, okay? And also, if you want to say, oh, I have this one Australian study with N equals 5,000, and out of these 5,500 men admitted to intimate partner violence or whatever, which is not really representative of the whole entire Australian male population, well, guess what? Here is a comprehensive review paper of over 200 studies, okay, which shows that women commit more intimate partner violence than men, okay? And this pooled data has a higher sample size as well, a greater sample size as well, okay? So yeah, this is just nonsense, this study, and you cannot extrapolate anything from it, really, okay? It is very limited data. And when you actually read it, they admit that it is limited data, right? Then you cannot really make any sweeping generalizations from that, right? Okay. For example, it says here, we captured 3 specific types of intimate partner violence behaviors, and these cannot be generalized more broadly to all intimate partner violence experiences and other contextual issues, power dynamics among intimate relationships, okay? And it also says here, this data could be subject to recall bias, for example, and misinterpretation, which can lead to underestimations or overestimations. So yeah, so you cannot really put this data really on a pedestal and say this is the ultimate proof that so and so many men are violent towards women. And again, if you want to play that card, we have systematic reviews and meta-analyses showing that women are actually more violent in relationships, right? With way higher sample sizes, right? So with more generalizability and also from different parts of the world as well. So my data is way better than yours.
And men admitted that they punch, kick, slap, choke physically.
Where in the Guardian article says it that they choked, right? So it says here hit, slapped, kicked, or otherwise physically hurt a partner. Didn't say choke here, right? Maybe they said that in a study questionnaire or something, right? But it seems like she just made this up with the choke part, okay?
That 1 in 10 is way higher than 1% of men are responsible for 10%.
Yeah, but the 1% is referring to the whole population, you fucking dipshit. Okay? This 1 in 10 statistics, or 10%, refers to the 5,000 men in the subsample of the study, okay? Which equates to 500 men in that study. Okay? Yeah? And again, we don't even know the context of, like, whether or not these men underreport their own abuse, right? Because they could be saying, yeah, that they sort of used intimate partner violence, but the context isn't clear, like whether or not they were provoked or were experiencing violence themselves. I mean, this is just questionnaire data, right? And men have been shown to underreport their own victimization. Okay? And again, this 10% is referring to that study with that limited sample, right? The 1% that Tin Man referenced was on the whole population of 300 million Americans. You fucking idiot.
Responsible for 60% of crimes. 1% of men are responsible for 60% of crimes. If this is saying 1 out of 10 physically abused, that's a crime. That's a crime. That's just physical abuse.
That's just not... That's you not understanding basic statistics, you fucking dipshit.
And if men are willing to physically abuse, think about all the other crimes they're willing to do. Steal. Rob. Like, let's be fucking for real.
Yeah, women don't do that shit, right? Again, let's talk about the child abuse that women commit. Yeah. Okay. Or what about the abortion? Okay? And he's probably going to say, oh, that's not a crime. Abortion is not murder. Yeah, I don't give a shit. Abortion is murder. You're killing a human being. It is scientific consensus that a human being is created at fertilization. Okay? So abortion is by definition killing of a human being, killing of an unborn child. Okay? And women do that in the millions. Okay? In the millions. Okay? So you can fuck right off.
Man. And this is just talking about women. What about the children?
Oh yeah, what about the children, right? What about the children? Again, women commit the vast majority of child abuse, child murder, abortion is committed by women in the millions, right? Women are more likely to murder an unborn child than men are likely to commit violent crimes. Okay?
What about fighting with their homies? Like, that shit is crazy.
Assault their partners. So there are so many points that I could make about this and why this study is so important. The first one, though, that I want to make is about re-victimization. In my whole career, I have argued against the victims.
This woman is probably a professional feminist.
Victim blaming of women and girls who are subjected to male violence. And one of my key arguments is that the theories...
There is no victim blaming of women and girls. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Women are way more protected than men and boys from any kind of violence. That's why we have like all kinds of women's shelters and women's organizations, and we have barely any shelters for men, for male victims. So what the fuck are you talking about? Like, we have even like this paper which shows that male victims of intimate partner homicide are victim blamed in the news media, right? So men are the ones victim blamed, not women.
Narratives from victimology, psychology, and criminology around re-victimization rates are bullshit.
Yeah, they're bullshit because these fields are feminist infested. Feminists like you
Said for years that the reason that women and girls are re-victimized and are so likely to have multiple experiences of male violence.
No, it's not very likely, actually. Again, vast majority of men are not violent criminals. Okay?
It's not because there's something wrong with them, it's because abuse is so common and that this kind of violence...
Again, most intimate partner violence is bidirectional. Women initiate most partner violence. So, yeah, most likely it might be the case that there's something wrong with them if they initiate the fights in relationships, the physical fights.
It's so prevalent that you are like...
No, this violence is not so prevalent. So let's look at Australian data, right? So there were 157 victims of family and domestic violence and homicide-related offenses in 1 year in Australia. Okay? Per 100,000. So if we look at the whole population, that would be 0.16% experiencing that, right? Of the entire 25 million Australian population. So it's not actually very prevalent, okay? Total nonsense.
To come across repeated abusers in your life, whether that's your dad, your brother, your boyfriend, your ex, your friend, whatever. If you consider...
Oh yeah, also family members, right? I mean, this woman is just demonizing men. Demonizing. And this guy is selling out his own gender. What a pathetic loser.
That a woman could date 10 men, and according to these statistics, at least 3 of them are going to be psychologically and emotionally abusive.
No, that's not how these statistics work. You cannot just extrapolate this limited data from this study on the whole Australian male population. You cannot do that. That's not how it works.
And at least one of them are going to beat the fuck out of her. What is it?
No, absolute nonsense.
I'm telling you, that's not a problem with her. That is a problem with the prevalence of male violence in our society, which means that
the prevalence of male violence is, again, extremely low. Okay? The prevalence of women's violence against children and also unrecorded or underestimated violence against men is pretty high, actually.
she is unfortunately incredibly likely to come across perpetrators.
No, she's not very likely.
And that is the conversation people don't want to have. And the second point that I want to make, which relates to that...
Yeah, people don't want to have these conversations, right? That's why TikTok is full of feminist bullshit videos like this one, and YouTube is recommending via the algorithm this public offender bullshit videos here, right? Because this is never promoted, right? This is also why The Guardian doesn't push this bullshit, right? The Guardian is totally not a mainstream media news outlet, right?
Is that we're so comfortable as a society, charities, police forces, governments, wheeling out these victim statistics about, oh, you've got a 1 in 3 chance of being a domestic, subjected to domestic abuse, or 1 in 3 chance.
Yeah, that's horseshit.
Of being a victim of rape, or you've got a 1 in 4 chance of being sexually abused before the age of 12. Do you know what happens with those statistics? Listen to them. They completely erase perpetrators. All you get is these victim statistics, but you never know.
That's total bullshit. The internet is full of perpetrator statistics. What the fuck are you talking about? And when we're talking about perpetrators, for example, women are undercounted because the criminal justice system is not so hard on women. It's hard on men, actually, right? Sex differences in the likelihood of arrest. Results showed that the probability of arrest for females was 28% lower for kidnapping, 48% lower for forcible fondling, 9% lower for simple assault, and 27% lower for intimidation than for males. Okay? So these statistics are biased against men because the criminal justice system and the legal justice system is biased against men and biased in favor of women.
Because no one will ever say, how prevalent are perpetrators? How many paedophiles do we have?
Yeah, how many female pedophiles do we actually have? Right? And how many men are falsely accused of pedophiles? Because we live in a world where even freaking Leonardo DiCaprio, who dates like 20-year-old women or something, he's been called a pedophile, which is just bullshit.
And that's why men keep telling this lie. That's why they keep saying stuff like only 1% of men are responsible for 60% of violence and 60% of crimes.
Again, 1% refers to people, because women also commit violent crimes. And yet, again, the percentage of the male population that is actually violent and that is convicted as violent criminals is even less than 1%. You fucking dipshit. Otherwise, why the fuck would be why do we even have like apartment buildings and schools out there when we should only have prisons, because there's like tens or hundreds of millions of violent criminal men behind every corner, right? Get the fuck out of here.
No. She's 100% right. Let's start focusing on the likelihood that men are perpetrators.
Yeah, it's very unlikely.
I talk about that all the time. I'll tell y'all straight up, I think 90% of men are coercive.
So there you have it. This guy is an absolute lunatic. 90% of men are coercive. So what the fuck does this even mean? Coercive? Do you mean like 90% of men are rapists? I mean, this is a demonization level that is like literally Nazi tier at this point. Okay? You're basically a Nazi, you fucking dipshit.
I think 90% of men have coerced women into having sex with them.
And what's your fucking evidence for this? 90% of men? You want to tell me, like, how many men are we on this planet? Like, a couple of billions. So you want to tell me billions of men have coerced women to have sex, basically raped women? 90% of men? Billions of men? I mean, and he says that all serious, right? With no irony. Get the fuck out of here. Like, what the fuck am I even watching? What is this fucking nonsense? This is like, say this about any other group, right? Again, like a white supremacist saying this about black people, right? What he just said about men, and everybody would be calling this racist and bigoted and hateful, right? And rightly so, right? But he says this insane shit about men, right? 90% of men are rapists. Like, what the fuck? What is wrong with you?
That's what I believe.
Yeah, that's what you believe because you're an idiot and you're hateful and you hate men. And yeah, there's really not much to say else. Like, you're just a hateful bigot.
I know for a fact 90% of women have been coerced.
Oh, you know for a fact. Right. 90% of women have been raped. He knows that for a fact. Okay, show me the fucking evidence then. Wow.
Or attempted. One of the two.
Oh, or attempted. Okay, again, I don't give a shit about your fucking nonsense. Show me the fucking evidence or shut the fuck up.
And I'm not like these dummies. I don't believe it's the same man doing it. Men are taught to coerce women. We are literally like...
Oh my God. Men are taught to coerce women. Right. That's why there are anti-staring laws in the UK, right? And that's why there are terror unit probes going after little schoolboys in the UK, right? That's why you get like propaganda shows like Adolescence and shit like that, right? Because men are taught to coerce women and to be violent against women and shit like that, right? They're taught that. Oh my God, get the fuck out of here.
That is ingrained in the fabric of manhood. Coercion, the art of coercion, if you will.
He just rattles off this nonsense without any evidence, without any logic. It's just painful to watch.
How many sex offenders do we have? How many domestic violence perpetrators do we have in our communities?
Yeah, more female domestic violence perpetrators, which is what the vast majority of data actually suggests.
It's studies like this one, that are incredibly important because it starts to shed light on how common these abusive behaviours.
No, they're not common, actually. Again, less than 1% of the population experiences that, okay? And again, women commit more domestic violence than men is what multiple systematic reviews and meta-analyses show.
Actually are. And when women blame themselves and be like, oh my God, I keep attracting these men, why does this keep happening? My ex did it, and then my new boyfriend did it, and then this person did it, and what the hell is wrong with
Blah, blah, blah.
me? Have I got a big sign on my head? No. You don't have a big sign on your head. You exist in a society filled with incredibly abusive and violent men.
Again, this is a total lie. Most men are not violent. You haven't provided any evidence for this. You're just demonizing men like the hateful, bigoted word I cannot say on YouTube. You are.
Unfortunately. And 1 in 10 is a fucking high statistic.
1 in 10 of what? Again, it's literally 500 men in this study. That's not generalizable for the whole Australian, let alone world population.
1 in 3, which includes the psychological and emotional abuse, is incredibly high. The chances of you being subjected to abuse are therefore incredibly high.
No, they're not. And again, this also looks only at men being the perpetrators, right? It's not a comparative analysis also, right? So women, again, commit more partner violence than men, okay?
I promise you, it is not a you problem. This is a male violence problem.
It's 100%. And
100%. Yeah, I just watched this TikTok video. I didn't even read the study that she referenced, but I just say 100%. Again, this is the hateful loser and low IQ bigot that he is. So, yeah, I will just play this like for 1 more minute and then we'll wrap this up.
And also, I'm gonna stop saying that too, because I've talked about that, like, because I remember reading something a long time ago when it was talking about re-victimization. And now that she put it like this, and it's funny because I've been saying it too, like most men contribute to this stuff. But now she helped me connect that dot. It's not about the women. It's about the men. It's not about the women, it's about the men.
Yeah, the men are just evil. We are just demons from hell, right? And women are these angels that can do no wrong. Okay.
Because I remember saying that recently, even like a couple months ago. I was like, yeah, because I read somewhere that like women who were SA'd are more likely to be SA'd again. And, I was thinking in the thing, it was saying like they're more vulnerable to it or something like that. And I was like, oh, but when you think about it, like, why would they be? Like, where's the logic in that? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not that. It's just that such a large percent of women get SA'd.
No, actually not. And a lot of them also lie about that. Okay?
But more than that, such a large percent of men SA that more than likely you're going, you know what I'm saying? Like,
No, it's less than 1% of men who rape. Okay? There's no evidence otherwise.
Like if you've been SA once, it's gonna happen to you again more than likely. If you keep dating, the more men you date, the more likely it becomes.
That's literally like saying the more you go outside, the more likely you are to die in a car accident or whatever. Like, yeah, no shit, but this doesn't mean that car accidents are like you're gonna die with a very high likelihood from a car accident every time you go out or something. Like, this is just dumb as fuck. Anyway, this guy is a total loser, lunatic, nutcase, basically, right? Yeah. So he's a hateful bigot, and he's really dumb as fuck. Yeah. I hope that more people from the pro-male collective respond to this loser and take him apart. Thanks for watching.